In 3, 2. All right. Hello. So, thank you for watching. I'm here today with a friend of mine who is the executive director and founder of Truth Wins Out. Wayne Besen. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing great. A lot better now than Chambers. I'll say that.
This is a fascinating conversation that we're about to have. So I don't think you know this, but just because there's so many complexities to my story, but when I started this entire thing, it was back in 2012, and I remember the first introduction that I had to anything that was ex-gay related was Alan apologizing to the queer community. And I remember seeing, there was an Extra article, Extra magazine, and one of the quotes that I was looking for is 99% of people can't change their sexual orientation. And that was my introduction, and I remember being on the inside of conversion therapy, and I would see everybody's reactions. Well, that's not true for my life, or I can't believe he would betray us. But it was more about how other people's decisions were affecting some other people, and that was basically my introduction.
I'd like to actually address the whole 99% don't change. Aside from the fact it's 100%, but that's a rhetorical trick these groups use. What they would say is, "Oh, it's not for everybody, but those who work hard enough can change." So they always put the onus on the people they're victimizing, and they say, "Oh well, some people have. So if some people have, you have. You can change too. If you work hard, if you read all of our books and buy all of our materials and spend a ton of money going to our conferences across the country, then you can be that person." And human beings are psychologically inclined, if they really want something bad enough, to believe that and say, "Yeah, nobody wants this more than me. I'm the one who's going to be successful with this." So they would always play these semantic games and motivate people, that they were different than all those other people who had failed. And the other people who had failed were just losers who didn't try and didn't work very hard. So that's a game that they always play.
Yeah. And it was interesting. It's interesting because this was supposed to be the model person for change to happen. Alan Chambers was supposed to be the model person. And everybody was supposed to be modeling after that. And in a way, I would think that it would also feed these people's narcissism, because they're always on camera, always presenting themselves as perfect and having this image of perfect. And the reality is they have deep, dark secrets, like what we're going to get into this video.
Yeah, and the narcissism, we really saw it after the 1998 Truth and Love campaign, which was $1 million advertising campaign that said it wasn't about hate, it was about hope, is what they would say. And they put newspaper ads in the New York Times and Washington Post, USA Today, and a bunch of other newspapers showing how people who, saying they could change. And it became a media sensation. Oprah had a thing on it, 60 Minutes, it was on the cover of Newsweek. Whatever publication, Nightline, you can think of, it was on in our TV show. And that really brought a lot of the narcissists out of the woodwork in that movement. And it became a cottage industry of con artists, fraudsters, hucksters, bamboozlers, and we started to see some really weird people. It was already weird to begin with, but we saw a lot of these phonies get involved that were in it for the money only. And we really had to do a lot to combat these fraudsters, because that was a hallmark of the ex-gay conversion movement. They saw you could get on TV and get a following right away and become famous overnight. And a lot of people who wanted to be famous pursued that angle. And I think Stephen Bennett was one of them that really stood out as a con man, in my personal opinion. And there were several others like that as well.
Mm-hmm. We should get into the video so that way that we have stuff to react to. I want to give your general reactions to the Law and Crime Network channel. I linked all of the links also in the description box below so everybody can see it. But without further ado, let's start reacting to this.
His faith, but detectives say there was something he wasn't being so open about.
And Alan Chambers, I'm the Vice President of Operations.
Alan Chambers was open about a lot of things, his job, his faith, but detectives say there was something he wasn't being so open about. And according to their report, that something has now been exposed. I'm Angela.
It's kind of crazy. To me, it's kind of... Hold on, let's go back. I would never imagine in my life that I would see Alan in a jumpsuit.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Aren't they usually orange?
Orange is the new black.
Especially in Florida, I mean, they'd be promoting orange, oranges. But it's, I guess orange is the new black. I gotta say, the look on his face is haunting. You see a man whose life essentially is over.
He's traumatized. Look at him. He's traumatized.
Yeah, and it kind of, I gotta tell you, Matt, it kind of weirds me out because I've never known anybody who actually was guilty of such crimes. I watched To Catch a Predator and everything, like everybody else, but I've actually never known a predator. And I knew Alan was not a friend. Let's get that straight. But he was an acquaintance that I've known for 25 years, mostly fighting against him at Exodus. We'd be in green rooms. We'd go to the Exodus conferences, and we'd talk. I interviewed him at length for my first book, Anything But Straight. I flew to Orlando, Florida, to go to their house where he and his wife Leslie, and they also took me to their Calvary Assembly of God church, which to me was like biblical Broadway, is what I called it in my first book, Anything But Straight, because it was this giant biblical show. I didn't even feel like a church. It was just one of those mega churches that was kind of an entertainment complex, and I did know him a little bit, so I was it kind of weirded me out because I didn't know him, but yet the show that I didn't know him at all. This was all a facade. It was a front. Who I thought I knew was completely somebody else. I was a little numb at first because this is the first time I've actually known somebody guilty of such crimes, or accused, not guilty yet, but although the evidence is quite damning at this point. It kind of was weird, at first, to realize that someone you knew has this deep, dark secret, and lived their life as a total fraud, not just with Exodus, but something much worse than, the whole pray away the gay. It was actually preying on younger people.
Oh my God!
Shocking. Yeah, it was very shocking. It was kind of shocking to me at first to know somebody.
As soon I got I said it in a video, but I got the text from Timothy Schrader Rodriguez, and then I got who's another conversion therapy survivor and advocate, and then our friend, or the friend of your channel, Brian Nesbitt, also sent me a message as well. You were the first person that he sent it to, and then I was the second, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I would call it a cordial relationship with Alan. It was combative at certain points over the years because we would call him out on his lies. And I had a name for him when he was that I used because he was such a tortured individual, and I called him Torture Chambers. Torture Chambers is how I referred to him on our website. But I had no idea how tortured this man was inside. But I knew something. The nickname came from, I don't know, I knew something internally in him was very conflicted. Now we know why.
It's It's really sad. It honestly is really sad. We should get back to the video. There's a
I gotta say that jumpsuit's kind of stylish, though.
yeah.
I mean,
Look at that.
Nice. If I saw that at the mall, I would wear that. It's nicer than what I'm wearing right now. I need one of those.
It's like a onesie. It's Alan's China onesie. Sorry.
It's kind of something you'd wear when something you'd wear in a nightclub back in the it's a nice jumpsuit.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay.
Something has now been exposed. I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. Before I get into this really disturbing case, I want to tell you about an app that I've been using that I really like. It's called Upside, and it will get you.
Okay, I'm skipping the ads. Sorry.
Alan Chambers was a sharp-dressed man, someone who has become an unlikely figure in LGBTQ spaces, an avid runner, and a businessman. But behind the tailored suits and social media posts, detectives in Florida say Alan Chambers is a man with a dark secret.
Sorry, there's a feedback. There's one other person in the chat that was also mentioning the feedback. Let me turn this down.
A man who they say spends his time on the
I know. Can you? Is it better?
But behind the tailored suits and social media posts, detectives in Florida say Alan Chambers is a man with a dark secret. A man who they say spends his time on the internet talking to people he believes are teenage boys. And what is so shocking,
I have spent my entire life wrestling with all things God, gay, and church. At the age... But the video volume could increase. Okay. Let me... Desktop audio down. Video up. Okay. Better?
I'll say something. I'll say something, though. Like... all the other ex-gay leaders, when Exodus collapsed, came out of the closet and said, I'm sorry, I hurt all these people, you can't pray away the gay. And Alan Chambers apologized too, but he was not part of the LGBTQ community. He remained a right-wing conservative politically. He and his wife were incredibly right-wing and went to hardcore right-wing churches. And the more I think about it, maybe there's a reason he didn't come out of the closet, because there was nothing to come out to. All the other leaders came out to a gay life, and if he was attracted to minors at 14 years old, and who knows how young, we don't know what else is out there, if there's other shoes to drop. Maybe there was nothing to come out to for him because he was interested in something illegal. So that may explain why he continued the facade of a married man.
I wonder if it's like the adrenaline of getting caught. I don't know. Like, all of it sounds like very twisted and creepy.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe that's the case, but wait till he finds out what the adrenaline in prison's like.
Oh my God, especially in Florida.
He might have... but Alan's always had a dark, shady side. Do you know that before he became an ex-gay leader, he had a problem with shoplifting? And he used to talk about how he would say, I used to lie, I used to cheat, I used to steal. That was part of his testimony before, Jesus apparently cured him. Well, obviously not enough. But that was part of his life. He was a thief, early in his life. So I think there was a character issue there that wasn't fully reckoned with in his life.
Mm-hmm. Let me just quickly read this. I have spent my entire life wrestling with all things God, gay, and the church. At age 47, I still find deep conflict and tension in my understanding and application of Scripture. Oh my God, the run-on sentences. And how that interacts with my own story. Oh my God, and again? And the hundreds of...
Well, no, he talked... Yep. He actually talks like he writes. It's actually it's like one non sequitur after another. It's actually kind of hard to follow what he says. It makes sense of it. If you watch his videos, I mean, it just
run-on sentence after run-on sentence.
It's like doing a Rubik's cube together. What did he say? I would always try to find a soundbite for him back when we used to pose Exodus, and it would take half my goddamn day to find something I could use because everything was a run-on.
Jeez. It's so bad. At the age of 47, I still find deep conflict and tension in my understanding and application of Scripture and how it interacts with my own story and the hundreds of stories I hear from those who contact me monthly for support, encouragement, and a lifeline. Today, I had another emotional moment realizing we in the church have been ill-equipped and, in turn, others, most often unintentionally. Today, I felt that hurt. It is sobering, and the burden of this mantle is heavy. Today, my knees buckled from the weight of it. Thankful for my 24-year friendship with Randy and his timely text. This burden isn't ours to bear alone. God will take it and send friends to share it. So, my brief interaction with Alan, when I did the Boy Erase premiere and finally came out as a conversion therapy survivor, Alan was using Faithfully LGBT as a way for him to bolster more stories of conversion therapy survivors. I was warned early on not to trust Alan by other conversion therapy survivors. I'm glad that I took that advice.
Yeah, I mean, Alan had a problem with the truth. He's severely truth challenged. He lied like most people breathe. He did that throughout his entire tenure of Exodus. We called him out, Truthlands out, quite vociferously over the years, and hammered him for his double talk and his. I think. To call it what it was pathological lying over and over again. That said, I had a fairly good relationship in terms of cordiality that he allowed me to go to Exodus conferences knowing I was going to write the truth about it. And so I went to many Exodus conferences across the country over the years, and Alan allowed me to do so. And so we kept a cordial relationship, even as we were quite adamant about how that organization destroyed lives, preyed potentially on kids, not just potentially, but we have actually examples of them molesting kids, and and how it was it was about blame and shame. But Alan was a very complicated figure. I think Torture Chambers really explains who he was. But here's someone who it explains why he was so. This arrest explains why he was so. Committed to this church and how he was always trying to fight these demons inside of him, because if he didn't fight who he was inside, this dark, ugly side, he would end up on the news like he is today, and probably facing up to 15 years in prison. So
let's get there.
So I think this was a very complicated person who thought he could not just pray away the gay, but pray away his inclinations for underage boys, and he was desperate, and that's why I think he was so committed to the church, and he really had to pray away something much more than being gay that he couldn't talk about.
Sick. Let's continue this video.
Sick.
These allegations is the fact that Alan Chambers was once
feedback.
a minister.
There's feedback?
None.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how to fix that. Sorry.
Maybe it's because it's running through your mic.
It's probably yeah. Audio output capture. Oh, yeah. Ooh, shoot. Anyway, I'm not sure if I can fix it at this stream, but I'll probably fix it on other streams. I'm sorry.
Okay, I can hear it anyway. I just have to focus. It's probably good exercise for me.
Counseling that Chambers used to offer here in a bit with former state attorney Dave Ehrenberg. There are a lot of layers to this one, and it's really disturbing. The it factor here is really high, so I'm warning you. Buckle up. Detectives with the Orange County Sheriff's Office in Orlando, Florida, began investigating Alan Chambers in February. That's when a detective started chatting with a person online who identified himself as John David, the CEO of a fashion company. Those detectives say John David was actually Alan Chambers. Chambers is the vice president of operations for an upscale men's clothing company in the greater Orlando area.
Winter Park.
Posing as a 14-year-old boy says he started chatting with Chambers on Snapchat, but then that conversation moved over to Telegram after the user claimed his Google account was hacked. The detective wrote, on Telegram, this user asked me if I was a, quote, top, or, quote, bottom, throughout our interaction.
Can you imagine having that conversation with a 14-year-old? What the... Ah!
Yeah, no, I can't, but I also couldn't imagine Alan having that until he got caught. I never thought that, I thought he was gay, obviously. I mean, but I didn't think he was a child molester. And it was really creeped me out, and it still does right now. But, it was really weird, too, in the way that Alan pursued this boy, which was really a cop. This was, I've watched Catch a Predator, but this was more a predator catches himself, the way he pursued this.
Because he knew. Because later in this video, which we're gonna watch, when he gets caught, it's like he almost knew that it was going to be a cop, and then he still proceeded to do it. It's almost like he was addicted to it feels like he was addicted to the thrill of it. We'll get there. Let's keep watching.
Maybe he shoplifted. I mean, maybe that's what a lot of people do that for the same reason.
It's
shoplifting.
Yeah. And
something much worse because there's victims and you're destroying the lives of young people.
It's scary.
On Telegram, this user informed me that they hosted a large dinner party and went to see Scream 7 with their 20-year-old daughter. They later told me that they had 2 adult children. They also told me that they wanted to, quote, make love with me, feel our bodies together, and meet and kiss.
Wild.
The detective said that the conversations with Alan Chambers continued into March. He wrote, on March 7th, this user stated, wish I was waking up with you next to me. Also on March 7th, they asked me if I wanted something long-term with them and asked if I only wanted sex and to lose your virginity.
So these statements are like conversion, like when you have like conversation. It's crazy.
Well, there's a few things there. I mean, first of all, I feel terrible for his wife when he says, I want to wake up next to you. I mean,
yeah,
he has to wake up next to him. And he realizes that he actually wants a 14-year-old boy next to him, not her. The idea that he tried to romanticize it, making love, no, you're trying to fuck a 14-year-old. And there's a delusional factor that he wanted a long-term relationship with this boy who...
His daughter is 20!
That's basically a sophomore in high school, freshman or sophomore in high school. So the idea that he was going to have a long-term relationship that's way more than delusional than just sex. I mean, this is someone who lived I think was detached from reality and lived in a fantasy world, but I think that his whole life has been detached from reality. Exodus was detached from reality. And You know what pisses me off, Matt? This guy lived his entire life saying, your lifestyle's fucked up, your lifestyle's fucked up, you need to change your lifestyle, something's wrong with you. And he's all the one pointing fingers at everybody. Meanwhile, he's living this fantasy world, which is of having sex with 14-year-olds, and also doing it, pursuing it, and probably has done it who knows how many times, because the chances of this being the first time aren't very good. I mean, most of the time when people are caught, they've done this many, 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 many times. So, we don't know what he's actually done, and there could be other shoes to drop.
Oh my gosh, and other victims being interviewed, and who knows?
Right. Yeah, this was a cop. How many of them weren't cops? Because it's possible.
Exodus had thousands of people.
It's improbable. Yeah, it's improbable that this was the first time. It's possible, but improbable. I will say that. So, and maybe there's a lot of victims at Exodus. I will tell you one thing. At Exodus, they went out of their way under his leadership to go after youth, to have youth programs, to recruit them. They had a program that was targeting 11-year-olds. Well, at the time, I spoke out against it and warned the world with my hair on fire that Exodus had a strange fixation on bringing in youth as young as 11. And now maybe there's a reason why. Maybe there was this fixation. Maybe there was something darker and more sinister to it. Because we knew that Exodus had a lot of problems with the so-called cured ex-gay leaders molesting their clients, sometimes underage. Often they did this. So the idea that this group that had all these problems and all these sexual scandals was going to go after 11-year-olds, I screamed about it. Like, this is disgusting. This is wrong. And, and now we see the results of it today with his arrest. So there might have been something much worse going on there at Exodus. I actually thought that was the case, and I said it as much in around 2011, 2012, and even way before that. So they had summer camps targeting youth, for God's sake. Why were they doing that? They had weirdos like this guy with this crazy hairdo called Justin Lucado they bring in, and then they had, and Alan Chambers was always quoted, always in the center of these youth programs. And if my memory serves me correct, before he got involved with ex-gay ministries, he was a youth pastor targeting youth when he was younger.
Oh my God!
There's a common thread that runs through his activism in the ex-gay movement, and it always comes back to trying to bring kids into the movement. I'll tell you another thing, Matt. One of the things we fought hardest against the Truth Wins Out was an ex-gay app that Exodus had. It was up on the Apple Store and Google, all the different stores, and we fought that, and we won, and we got the app removed. And the reason we fought it so hard was because that was the main reason for this app, according to their own strategic plan, was to bring in youth, into more kids into their sick movement. And now we know why. I mean, they created an app specifically to bring in young boys. Now I think we can see why they were so into this, and it makes me sick. But it's not like we didn't scream about it. It's just that the world wasn't listening. And I'll tell you another thing. I blame the evangelicals. Evangelicals, conservatives, I point the finger directly at you and say that you did this because you had groups like mine warning about this in the most explicit terms, screaming, saying, stop this. And you funneled your kids into these sick programs. You knew better, and you did it anyway. What does that say about you? My friend and former colleague at Truth Wins Out, Evan Hurst, has a project called the Pervert Pastor Project that he has started that exposes all of these ministers that present themselves as holier than thou, and yet they're molesting kids, they're having sexual scandals, and he's keeping track of all of this because it's very widespread in that movement. A lot of this, it's more than a movement, it's a mask for bad people. In my first book, Anything But Straight, I called them the formers, these conservative Christians, because at their churches, it was always, I'm a former drug addict, I'm a former junkie, I'm a former pedophile, I'm a former, whatever it is, a thief, whatever it might be. And that made up a good portion of their ministries. And it's kind of a flypaper for bad people who already screwed up their life, and that's why they call it born again, because they screwed up the first version of life. And no, it's true. And some of them try to change and try to present themselves as something better, but there's the problems that weren't resolved deep inside that made them screw up their first version of life before they were, born again. And to quote the great Billy Idol, sometimes it's not born again, it's porn again. And I think that I think that Exodus, a lot of people involved were just misguided and tried their best, but there were a lot of people that got involved in this as a opportunity to position themselves to be near youth and exploit them. And I think now, as the Supreme Court says, it's okay to put minors in conversion therapy, we're going to see more abuse. The Supreme Court just made it easier to molest young kids under the guise of ex-gay therapy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's called, the Supreme Court said talk therapy is okay, but the question is, what the hell are they talking about? And a lot of times, it's take off your clothes, I want to touch you. That's what they're actually talking about. It's despicable, it's disgusting, and the Supreme Court of the United States ought to be ashamed of themselves for making it easier to harm children.
This case alone, whether Alan knows it or not, is helpful to us, because this is the reason why that you've been screaming for over a decade why conversion therapy is harmful. Let's continue on to the video.
Okay.
Very attractive to you. On March 9th, 2026, I told this user that I was feeling sick, and they responded, "Need daddy to come take you, rub your back, hold you close?" I responded affirmatively, and they said, "Though I think we'd end up making love."
Well, it just blows my mind. Blows my mind.
I mean, yeah, and his Alan's trying to make this romantic. We're making love. No, you're just fucking a kid. I mean, let's be blunt about it. You're not making love. Mm-hmm. It's so delusional. He's such a repressed person, and this has nothing to do with being gay. This is something that's completely different. Mm-hmm. And he spent all this time trying to cure gay people, but he was really trying to cure his own predilection for children in this case. And I think that's not uncommon in conversion ex-gay ministries. It is it basically is an opportunity for bad people to be around kids. And we see with other professions. I mean, there are teachers, pastors. There are those a subset that get in for the wrong reasons. And I think that's why people should not send their kids to these ex-gay programs, because these are people who usually have no credentials whatsoever. They have shady pasts. They are creepy, and you're putting your children in the hands of people who aren't who they say they are, and bad things often come from that. And it's not a bug of ex-gay programs. It's a feature. Mm-hmm. You literally, if you were a parent and you're sending your child to a conversion therapist or an ex-gay ministry, you are exponentially increasing the chances they are going to be touched inappropriately or worse. And
which brings the argument: do they actually love? Yeah. Do they actually love their kids by sending them to this? Because this is like the ultimate form of grooming. We caught a conversion therapist doing the exact same thing a couple of years ago. This is a pattern. This is a pattern that we see repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, why else would a grown man be so insistent on putting together programs for youth?
Do you remember by the way, do you remember what the police said about Jason Graves?
No, I do not.
Refresh me. I will. They said, sometimes we have walked the path. Do you remember that?
No.
Sometimes.
Oh wait, walked the
path. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I remember. They basically made an excuse for not doing anything. That's right. And then they said, "Oh, well, he's changed, and he's made himself a better man." Pretty much. Is that?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
describing it correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are there any more? Are there more gullible people than evangelical, right-wing evangelicals? No. I mean, they'll believe anything. And the other thing is, as I said, I called them the formers because I'm a former this, always something bad, something horrible. I'm a former deadbeat dad, whatever it is that screwed people over, that's what they did. And so the more perverse and sick the story is in these churches, the more they stand up and give it a standing ovation. Like if you say, I was, perverted and I did this, God, as long as you say afterwards, God healed me, whether it's true or not, they stand up and they applaud. But the sicker and more screwed up the story is, the more they love you. And so, and I'm going to add something to that. Okay, with ex-gay, a very common theme with survivors, as you know, is they consider all these things, no matter what they are, sins. So being gay is a sin, being a child molester is a sin, being a thief is a sin, cheating on your spouse is a sin. Anyway, so when you go to these meetings, they put you in a shame circle, and everybody tells a story. But because they put all these sins together as just sin, they lump it together, you have, in many cases, a young person who's gay sitting next to a child molester in a circle, and it's incredibly inappropriate what they do. It's destructive, but they keep doing this, and they, because they're both sins, and God can heal everything. But no, you're actually creating the conditions for a child to be harmed. And these evangelicals, they just won't listen because either if you're naivete or pure evil.
Yeah, for sure. Let's continue on.
A day after that exchange, the detective said Alan Chambers wrote that he deleted the messages he'd exchanged with the user he thought was a 14-year-old boy, but later sent photos, and those photos were of a bald, middle-aged white male. There are more messages about sex that I won't go into. The detective said the messages about meeting continued into April. The affidavit states, on April 10th, 2026, at approximately 1100 hours, they messaged me and said that they were pulled over on Interstate 4. They later messaged me and asked if I could take an Uber and meet them near their office on Park Avenue in Winter Park. They also sent me a picture of their office showing a brown table on a unique carpet. On April 12, 2026, this user told me that they wanted to be with me and they wanted to make love in their house. This user continued to express concern that they could get caught and said that they really wanted me to be real.
He knew.
Wow.
He knew who it was. He really wanted him to be real. He knew that it wasn't real, and he pursued it anyway. What do you think he was doing on the interstate? We know.
Yeah, it seems somebody who's trying to be caught. Given his station, I mean, in life and who he presented himself as, he didn't seem to be taking many precautions. And I'll tell you one thing: for someone who used to say I used to lie, I used to cheat, I used to steal, he's a pretty bad criminal. I mean, he really. Like I said, instead of the catch a predator, it's more like the predator caught himself. How doggedly he pursued this. I mean, it's really kind of shocking.
Disgusting.
On April 16th, this user messaged me that they were, quote, horny.
Jesus
On April 17th, this user messaged me that they were laying in their bed and that they wished I was there before.
Can you imagine his wife? Like,
I mean, I kind of feel bad for her. I mean, I've met her a few times, and she was always she was a fanatical religious nut, but she was also kind as well, and a gracious host when I went to the house to interview them for my book. And I feel bad for her because her entire life was based upon a lie. She has some blame for that because she obviously didn't look very hard for the truth. But at the same time, I mean, her whole life must be collapsed right now, and I kind of feel bad for her. At the same time, she kind of made her bed, the one he wanted to bring the boy into, and now
Oh my
she
God.
doesn't sleep in it. But but I feel, but it's kind of, her whole life, her whole concept of religion that she wrapped herself in, the zealotry in which she pursued her Christianity, because she was a zealot. That must all be crumbling right now. So I actually know her a little bit, and I kind of feel bad for her. But at the same time, she was behind Alan, and enabled him and helped him with his facade of being a heterosexual man when he clearly wasn't.
Do you think that she was along for the ride, or do you think he would like? Do you think he obviously led her on? Do you think that
he was always honest with her. She always knew the score with him. He never misled her. And I will say they had a good chemistry. I think that was part of it, that they really were very good friends. The chemistry was palpable. I mean, when you were with them, that they liked each other. So their relationship was real, but I mean, it wasn't real in like my mom and dad's relationship was real, a straight guy and a straight woman.
Mm-hmm.
But they certainly got along and liked each other. So and he was on. I mean, he was honest with her, and she knew everything. But at the same time, I mean, she also knew he was incredibly gay and went along with it and pushed his propaganda. So she was part of that too. She played her role dutifully to help spread his lies. On the other hand, it must be very difficult for her. I feel terrible for the children. I mean,
me too.
His children must. The first thing I had to deal with her dad being this ex-gay fraud, and then he came out and told the truth that it didn't work. And I thought that was the end of it, and he's just going on living his life. And now they have to find out their dad is something much more sinister, and that must be very difficult for the family right now. I do feel bad for his children.
Good God. Let's continue. Oh my God.
Now, if the ick factor on these conversations wasn't high enough already, it gets even worse. There are quotes about wanting to kiss, have sex, and more explicit descriptions of what
Could you imagine?
The detectives served search warrants and subpoenas for the accounts and IP addresses associated with the Google account related to the investigation. The detectives said a Google account was registered to Alan Manning Chambers, and a Google Pay account was registered under his wife's name. The detectives wrote that one of the accounts they had investigated was used to connect with male sex workers. On May 19th, Orange County detectives made their move. They took Alan Chambers.
That's so crazy.
Said that he agreed to speak with them. The detective
First Sam Britton, now Alan.
wrote about this conversation. He currently lives with his wife and 2 children. Alan identified his phone number. When I asked about his social media, he told me that he had a Telegram account and identified the username as AlexWP74. When I asked him about the Snapchat account JDWP50, he confirmed that was his. When I asked Alan if he communicated with any children, he told me that he communicates with one who he identified as who was 14 years old and who he met on Snapchat. When I asked him what they discussed, he told me that they discussed meeting, but would not specify to do what. When I asked Alan further questions, he told me that he would rather not say any more. I told you earlier that Alan Chambers used to be a minister, and he was. I'm going to get into that and the twisted history behind that.
We know
I
it.
want to bring in Dave Ehrenberg. He is the former state attorney for Palm Beach County, also currently a defense attorney and the host of the MK True Crime Show. That is on Megyn Kelly's True Crime Network. You can watch that on YouTube. So Dave, thanks for coming on. I thought you'd be the perfect person to discuss this since you've been on both sides of the aisle in the courtroom. My first thought to you, or my first question to you, I want to talk about these charges. We have this guy, Alan Chambers, who's got this crazy background we're also going to dig into, charged with solicitation of a minor, obscene material distribution. He's accused of sending naked photos of himself to this person he thought was a teenage boy, and unlawful use of a two-way communication device. I mean, this is a guy who's a prominent guy in the community who says he campaigned against being gay for a long time, and now he's charged with soliciting a minor for sexual activity with another male who he thought was a teenage boy. Thoughts on this?
Hypocrisy is an awful thing, and it really hurts in the court of public opinion. It's the one thing people really can't stand from politicians, from their
You built your entire career off of exposing hypocrisy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the ultimate hypocrisy, what he did. Just living a double life. And, you know, but he paid, you know, you look at his nice suits he's wearing in the business, and the house is very nice when I went. And all of this was built off
Blood money.
other people that it was a hypocrisy. He made all that money and built his life around telling people that they're screwed up and they should be more like him. And now we come to find who he is. And I certainly don't think anyone wants to be like that. And so, you know, he's hoisted by his own petard, really. I mean, this is someone who should be ashamed of himself, really, making all, you know, his entire life around turning himself into a model. Hey, this is how you should be. Look at me. Put himself up on a pedestal.
That's the sole.
He's the last person. Yeah.
That's the sole reason why I act the way that I do, because I don't want to be that role model person. I want to be exactly opposite of everything that I have learned in conversion therapy. So I act the way that I do, even though that it puts off people. I act the way that I do because A, I'm pissed off. Like, I felt like this entire thing that these Christians were feeding me was a lie. I felt like I said it in videos, I thought I was their weird fetish. I didn't understand what was really happening until much later. I didn't realize how harmful it was until I watched some of your videos on your YouTube channel, which I left in the description box below. Yeah, I very much was along with their lie, and I know a lot of other conversion therapy survivors who experience the same thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tragic what they do. It's a house. It's basically a sandcastle of lies, and a wave will come and knock down the sandcastle and bring it into the ocean, and then there'll be, you know, flat sand on the beach for a little while, and then some other con artist will come and build up a new sandcastle. Same lies, same bullshit, and then another wave will come, you know, knock it down and expose them as frauds. And it's just like, you know, it's an assembly line of lies where failures replace frauds. It's some of the most shameless people I've met. Some of them are sincere, they're just caught up in it, and other people gravitate towards these things because they're really sinister. And I think now we found out which Alan was. He thought he was, I thought he was misguided and screwed up, but sincere. Apparently, he's misguided, screwed up, and insincere.
Unreal.
criminal defendants when you say one thing and do another. Now, in a court of law, you can limit the hypocrisy. You
Crazy to see
all
him
that
in a
stuff out
jumpsuit.
and just be a regular anonymous defendant in front of the jury, and they don't know that you're a pastor who fought against, who fought for conversion therapy. And now it depends, though, whether he'll take the stand, and it depends on what the defense is, because it limits the defense. So my take is the hypocrisy is what makes this story so interesting, but in a court of law, it won't really come in unless the defense opens the door and allows the prosecution to show that he's a liar, he's a hypocrite, and he should be found guilty.
Right now, he's charged with going online and soliciting sex from somebody he thought was a 14-year-old boy. It was actually the person the cops say he's talking to was a cop posing as a 14-year-old boy. How much trouble is he in for transmitting photographs, nude photos of himself, to somebody he thought was a 14-year-old boy?
Oh, he's in a whole lot of trouble. These are 3 third-degree felonies, each of them punishable by up to 5 years in prison. He won't get that. That's the maximum. but you could run
15 years. That's the seriousness of these charges. 15 years. He might get 10. He might get 7. He might get out on good behavior. I personally think that his life is over. I think he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about. Well, I would assume I'm not based in Florida, but I would assume Florida prisons are pretty harsh.
Up in Florida, they're lovely. It's like a country club. No, I'm kidding. God, yeah. Rayford is the main prison up in northern Florida. I've been to that prison town, driving when I went to school, and just going through the town itself is very creepy and scary. Just it's like a town of several prisons, and Rayford. And Alan's life is effectively over, and even if he gets out early, what's he going to do? I mean, he's clearly the ex.
Nobody wants to hear from him. His social media is already flooded.
Right, he was already born again once, so is he going to be like born again? I mean, how many times can he be born?
Stillborn.
There's no credibility with the story anymore. Nobody's going to hire him. I mean, that's the look he has on his face. That look of, like it's over. I mean, he knows it. He knows that he's lived his life a certain way, and it's all led to this day. This day was a long time in coming. He was a man of deep, dark secrets, and instead of dealing with his demons privately and with a therapist, he stepped out on the public stage. And he always was on the public stage, whether it was the Exodus or whether it was with the business community in Orlando. I don't know, probably from, narcissism, wanting to be in the spotlight. But this was a long time in coming, and I think that he could have maybe avoided that had he sought help. And he never did, I assume, or if he did, it didn't work. So his life is pretty bleak at this point. I don't think his future is going to be that good.
Let's continue.
on those sentences consecutively instead of concurrently. So the 3 charges are solicitation of a minor via computer, third-degree felony, transmission of harmful material to minors, third-degree felony, and in unlawful use of a two-way communication device. So he's facing a whole lot of pain here. I think his defense will try to say that he had no intent to actually meet anyone. He was just talking about what he likes, and he's got First Amendment rights to talk about what he likes as opposed to actually taking steps to meet these children. On the other hand, he did take steps to meet the children. That's where his defense is going to collapse. I mean, he had multiple meeting dates set up. He gave explicit instructions to the so-called minor, who wasn't really a minor, to prepare for the sexual activity, and he provided his real business address for a rendezvous point. Not smart.
Right. And the cops, they move in on him on May 19th, and what they wrote in the affidavit makes it sound like this guy said, I talked to a 14-year-old on Telegram. Yeah, I do. But he wouldn't say why he was talking to the person. Well, they, of course, know, according to everything we read in the affidavit. And, of course, these are allegations at this point in time. Let's dig in now to the next layer of this story. Alan Chambers used to be a minister. He was a minister at a church that is now closed. It closed in 2013. It was called Exodus International. And Alan Chambers, who is married to a woman and has 2 children, was offering what's called conversion therapy. And critics of that call it pray the gay away. And this is a take.
You coined that term.
Yeah, well, it's actually, it's pray away the gay.
Yes.
Not pray the gay away.
Yes.
The therapy where religious figures try to coach people who are gay to not be gay anymore and convince them that they might not be gay or trans.
Like, how would you not be gay? You have Fabulous right behind you.
Yeah, and that's like the gayest. That's just the gayest. Like, even Liberace was like, butch up. No, like that guy was the head of, like, I'm going to make you straight. Who the hell's going to, I don't even believe this.
Straight!
I know. Like, really?
Sure. It's very controversial. I covered a case back in Ohio years ago where a young person ended up ending it all because they went through conversion therapy and couldn't take it anymore.
Ohio? Do you know that story?
No, which one? I don't know it.
Yeah, she was saying, I covered a case in Ohio where somebody took their own life because of conversion therapy.
I don't know specifically that one.
Mm-hmm.
This is there are laws enacted against conversion therapy.
They're not strong enough.
And so his church closed in 2013. And he then started campaigning.
Exodus wasn't just the church, it was an international
Yeah, it was an international ministry, and it had a huge footprint. Even here, I was in Colombia and recently, and in the middle of Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, I'm in a bookstore, and John Paul's book is there.
No way!
Yeah, I was there.
What?
On the sale rack, but
yeah.
It just shows you, even to this day, these materials are still circulating. These old materials, not to mention the new materials from groups like Change Movement that are operating still today and are menacing children as we speak.
Scary.
Against conversion therapy. This adds a whole new, it might not be relevant in a court of law to what he is charged with, but this adds a whole new layer to what he was accused of doing online.
Yeah, by the way, the Supreme Court, they overruled a lot of these statutes that banned conversion therapy, saying it's First Amendment protected. Do you want to go there and try to preach the praying of the gay away? Then you can do so, even though it's quackery, but the Supreme Court is allowed.
Yeah, it's not there. I just want to address that. But the Supreme Court did was first of all, the Supreme Court did was such a pile of bullshit, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling you, it's free speech. No, it's medical speech. It's the same as a cardiologist telling someone who they just gave a quadruple bypass to that they should do nothing but eat cheeseburgers and fries. If a cardiologist did that, everyone would say, let that quack needs to have their license stripped. They're clearly hurting people. Well, a conversion therapist by nature is a quack, giving fake medical advice that doesn't exist in medical books. So you can't just say anything because it's free speech. They're basically the Supreme Court equated a medical doctor or therapist with a right-wing radio talk show host that could say whatever the hell they want. No. If you have a medical license, you're not a right-wing talk show host. You're not some weirdo on the street corner yelling about the gays. You hate kill the gays on the street corner. You're a professional, and every profession should have professional standards. And what the Supreme Court did was say, oh no, you don't need standards. You can do whatever the hell you want because it's free speech. And it was one of the worst rulings in the history of the court. And I'm not even a big fan of these laws because I don't think the ones in the United States are particularly effective because the religious loophole that all you need to do is say that you're given religious therapy and you can still do it. But their reasoning was so illogical and irrational and made such a mockery of medical licensing that they ought to be ashamed of themselves for what they did. A high school mock debate team could have come up with a better reasoning for the ruling than what they did. They absolutely abominable.
I think it should be stronger. I went through conversion therapy as an adult. I personally think it should be stronger. I know that in Canada, I advocated for stronger laws.
Yeah.
If you look at the Williams Institute numbers, the Williams Institute numbers has a total of 10,000 people that are protected under the current laws with conversion therapy. 10,000 divided by 20. So I can bring this up. I'll bring a calculator up. So it is 10,000. I'm bad at math. Divided by 20. 500 kids. That's what the law per state. So So that's what the law protects. It doesn't protect what I've experienced, which is, Chris Doyle is a licensed practitioner. He's also bald. There's Rich Weiler, who's a certified life coach. Alan Downing, who's a certified life coach. There's like a bunch of people that have these titles that are not protected.
Yeah,
and it's scary.
Them to also use the religious loophole to say, you say a prayer before, instead of just therapy, you do a prayer before it, and you throw around the word God a little bit. Suddenly, you're a religious counselor. And these same conversion therapists, which are, all of them are religious to begin with, they're not secular, which they used to claim. They used to go, they used to lie and say, "Oh, we're secular." What NARTH did, the conversion therapy group, that changed their name to the Alliance for Therapeutic Truth and Scientific Integrity, but they were all religious to begin with, and sometimes they let it out. But now they don't even hide that. After the first law was passed, they dropped all the secular pretense, and they just said, "Oh yeah, we're all religious fanatics, and we're going to help you through God," because that was their loophole to continue practicing these conversion. Yeah, but the problem with laws today is also the internet. How do laws even work when somebody when you can go online and get a conversion therapist in a different state or a different country? So
that's what happened to
it's
me.
impossible to enforce today because of the internet. And it's very much, I also consider, when one state has something and another doesn't, it's very similar. The comparison I'll make is gun laws. Chicago has very strict gun laws, but it was flooded with guns because Indiana next door allows anybody to buy a gun. Any lowlife off the street can go buy a gun in Indiana and bring it back to Chicago. So it's the same with conversion therapy. Like you have it in one state, but if one state over, there's no law, people can go there, and especially on the border of states, and then also on the internet. So there's no borders anymore, is my point. So unless everybody bans it, anybody can get conversion therapy within a click or two online. So the idea of banning it is kind of old-fashioned. Pre-internet logic.
Like, for example, I was listening. I don't know if you caught the oral testimony from the Supreme Court. I might do a reaction on that in the near future, just because I want everybody to get their talking points better. Because I don't think the people that are supposed to be representing conversion therapy survivors could freely understand that the current legislation is too watered down. There needs to be more protections, and B, maybe these organizations should start listening to conversion therapy survivors more, especially those that have experience in legislation, to understand where the gaps are, because it's dangerous. It's super dangerous. Anyway, we should continue to the video.
Yeah. It is dangerous, but I don't know how you stop it when you can go online and get it. I'm going to give you an example why it's so hard to stop. California, I believe, was the first state to ban conversion therapy, and yet the biggest ex-gig organization in the entire country, if not the world, is located in Redding, California, at the Bethel Church in Redding. It's called Change Movement. So if it's banned, then how the hell do you have the biggest ex-gay church in a state where it's banned? And they also give online counseling. They sell their books online. So you could. I just find it. You have to use information to stop their disinformation and expose these guys, because trying to ban it on the age of the internet is kind of futile in a way. Because, like I said, if you're a parent trying to help, with air quotes, help your kid, or you're a young person who has been brought up in a fundamentalist church and wants to change, well, I mean, again, it's one or two clicks away. You're going to find a therapist. or a religious counselor or a life coach or whatever the hell they will call themselves to get around the laws. Or they don't even need to get around the laws because you can do it from a foreign country. Some of these people could move there and offer this stuff. I mean, some of the most famous ex-gay therapists, like Vander Aardweg, is he was from the Netherlands. So, I mean, it's not just in America. They have
This is a worldwide thing.
Conversion. Yeah, they have a whole worldwide group now, and they have a whole worldwide network, and as was Exodus International, led by Chambers. But they also had another Exodus Global that they had out of Canada that was focused on international. My point is, though, is that people are going to be able to access this today. Unless you ban it worldwide and have a strong enforcement mechanism, the idea of banning it is kind of like wishful thinking in the age of the internet. And also they can use AI to find therapists and make it easier. Like, I want to change. You can just type into AI. I'm gay. I don't like it. I want to change who I am, and find me a therapist that can do online sessions. And you can find. It's not that hard to find. If you really want to do it, it's not like you can truly ban it. It's kind of
unless if it's heavily regulated, but I don't even think the United States wants to regulate their internet.
Okay, but how do you regulate it on the internet unless every country in the world bans it? I mean, it's kind of that doesn't mean I'm opposed to the laws. I think they should still be passed because they're symbolically very strong, and maybe a parent doesn't send their kid because they go, oh wow, it must be something bad with it. I think it's good symbolically. I think it's worthwhile. I think it was worthwhile to pass them. I actually spoke in two state legislatures, and one in New Jersey and Massachusetts, to ban it. I mean, I've actually spoken to ban it, but I just think their expectations were too high, and I think they were misled by using the word ban, because it didn't ban anything. That was just sort of marketing, not reality.
Yeah. Let's continue.
They exist out there. These places still exist, and it does show a level of hypocrisy here. Now, apparently he did this, and then he turned against it, so he's there, he's against it, and here's a guy who's clearly fighting with himself because he's living a lie, and he's married, and then he puts out suspicious social media posts that could be interpreted as coming out, and I just... you hope for people like this, they just stop living the lie and be who they are. But here, it's not just about him, it's about what he tried to do to others, to young people who didn't exist, but who thought were young teenagers who he wanted to have sexual relations with. That's when it becomes a crime. You can do whatever you want.
Don't drop the soap.
Yeah, I mean, Alan's he's got a limited future at this point. He knows it. I mean, he's like,
his life is over.
His face is one. He knows it. I mean, but he's got no one to blame but himself. I mean, he put himself in this position. He lived a lie his entire life, and clearly didn't get the help he needed, and made all his money. I mean, every time,
That's why he posted bail. That bail was probably
a lot of money. Yeah, but he made a lot of money preying. He made a lot of money preying on people over the years. That's how he can afford these things, I suppose. And
as far as I'm concerned, that's blood money. That $15,000 that he posted on bail, that's blood money, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, some of it was because he built his business on it, but then again, his business was clothing, so he probably made money out of that because it was a popular clothing store. He certainly knew how to iron, and I never saw a wrinkle on his clothes.
Jeez.
I mean, he constructed a phony life. Maybe he had to because he was interested in underage boys, and the result of that would be A, harming kids and screwing up their lives, and B, going to prison if he got caught. And apparently, the latter has happened, and maybe people will come forward now with all this trust and say that this wasn't the first time. As I said earlier, it rarely is the first time when someone gets caught. So I think that, his life is pathetic and a very sad existence, really. And he tried to construct a life to fight his so-called demons by literally going after what he saw as demons. Because he used to talk a lot about Satan and demons and exorcists. They had exorcisms sometimes for some of the ministries. Had exorcisms and what they called spiritual warfare. One group that had a lot of spiritual warfare with an exorcist was called Desert Stream.
I'm familiar with Desert Stream.
And with Andy Kamitsky, and they also had an underage teen sex scandal as well. So, the more they talk about demons is because they're fighting their own demons, not the people they're allegedly trying to help. They're fighting it within themselves. And so I think the ex-gay ministries, by definition, is pathological. It's sick. It's about repression, and it's about exploitation. Mm-hmm. And everybody should know that before they send their kid to have their lives destroyed in the name of helping them.
Behind closed doors, pretty much, as long as it's consensual. But when you start trying to take advantage of young people, it's a crime even if those young people are undercover cops.
The therapy aspect of this is really something that is crazy to me. And I want to put up one of his posts. This one's from 2019. We dug up this post. And it almost sounds like we kind of took this as, is he saying that he is kind of gay? This is as far back as 2019. I've spent my entire life wrestling with all things God, gay, and church. At age 47, I still find deep conflict and tension in my understanding and application of Scripture and how that interacts with my own story and the hundreds of stories I hear from those who contact me monthly for support, encouragement, and a lifeline. His own story. So it seems to me that what story is he talking about? And he posts it with the, hashtag faithfully LGBT, and then faithfully LGBT was something that he was going to start. When I started this in 2018.
Alan was looking, I think there's somebody in the chat. Alan was looking for people, for conversion therapy survivors specifically, to be a part of like some interview process. So he was, we were supposed to set up a meeting and call. Like I said, I was warned by a conversion therapy survivor not to trust Alan early on. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I didn't, but I said this in a video. I think Alan is very much an opportunist. I think he was just using this as an opportunity for him to get into this to possibly make more money off of fighting conversion therapy. And like you said, he never really came out.
No, in fact, and I think people forget how fanatical he was during Exodus. I'm going to read a quote from that. Alan Chambers said in an Exodus newsletter, one of the many evils this world has to offer is the sin of homosexuality. Satan, the enemy, is using people to further his agenda and destroy the kingdom of God and as many souls as he can. Well, I guess you could replace the word Satan with his name at this point. That Alan Chambers, the enemy, is using people to further his agenda and destroy the kingdom of God as many souls as he can. I think that would be appropriate today.
I hope you get destroyed in prison.
Rainbow thing with a cross on it. It almost sounds like he's saying, like, I've struggled with myself for a really long time. Do you interpret it that way as well, Dave?
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, Internet, is that he clearly has had internal struggles. And it's interesting because around the time of that post, he's still out there pushing conversion therapy. So he doesn't know which way he's going here. And that's okay. There are a lot of people who share in his internal strife. But at the same time, you don't involve children. And that's where it steps over the line to becoming a crime. And the hypocrisy is going to make jurors hate him if it comes in.
Do as I say, not as I do.
You just can't bring in character to prove that you did this.
Go.
I mean, in one way, I feel bad for him, and it's this: he wasted his entire life. His entire life was a facade, like from childhood to Exodus International to his, his getting busted and likely going to prison for the alleged crimes. I mean, what was the point of Alan Chambers? Other than, I guess you could say his kids are a legacy, but other than that, like, what did he do except hurt people and exploit them and lie and cheat and steal, as he said earlier? What did he do other than live this sad, twisted, pathetic, cruel life? And now it's essentially over. But my God, if that was my legacy, I would just feel so ashamed.
That's
what I have one life to live, and this is what I did. This is what I did. How I spent it. I mean, come on.
But character evidence can come in if it involves impeachment. So if his defense lawyers get up and say, he's a man of God, he's done some good work, okay, you just open the door to character evidence on the other side about how he's a hypocrite. So that's where the defense is sort of constrained. They can't really lean on his background to say, look, he's been involved in the community. They pretty much have to keep him off the stand and pretty much just have to listen as the prosecution buries them with their evidence.
Yeah, I don't ever want to hear him say God again.
Yeah.
Matt, I don't ever want to hear the word God come out of Alan Chambers' mouth again. Too fucking late.
Yeah.
God. I'm sorry, but like, he's the last person I want to hear the word Jesus or God or any kind of preachy shit right now. It's over. Like, you're not a man of God. To you, God is a prop. To you, God is something that you wear as a mask to hide both your hypocrisy and your crimes. And you ought to be ashamed presenting yourself as a religious person. And duping all those gullible fundamentalists who believe your bullshit. And all the people that put their lives in your hands. Hoping you could help them when all you did was hurt them.
Since he likes the Bible so much, Matthew 18, verse 6. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and drawn in the depths of the sea. That's coming straight from Jesus.
Well, they are in Florida. And in this case, little ones was literal.
It's true. It's crazy.
It's sad. Yeah, I mean, look, come on. You're not a man of God. You're a con artist. God, you mock God more than anybody, Alan. I mean, God, the church. It was all bullshit. It was all peek behind the curtain and see something entirely sinister. So, if his defense team brings up his church, or if he talks about mercy and God, just shut up already. This God thing was played out with you, Alan. No more God. You aren't a religious man. I'm honest. I'm not religious. You know what? You're 1,000 times less religious than me. Stop already. God, fuck you, God. You don't believe in God. It's all a veil covering up something worse. So, and it goes for all those other Christian pastors and ex-gay leaders and all these others that point your finger at everybody and tell them how to live. You know what? We don't believe you anymore. We have seen this movie too many times, over and over again, of the holy man being a horror man. And we're sick of it. We're not fooled by it anymore. We're not fooled by your false, fake-ass piety. And you're trying to present yourself as better than everybody else. If they just live like you and give you money, their lives will improve. I'm amazed that people keep falling for this shit. Mm-hmm. But they do. They do over and over again. It's like the oldest trick in the book. I don't get it, but,
It's, the thing that I find this, I find this whole thing frustrating. Here you go, looking at them for help. They're the ones scolding you to do this, or act this way, or to be this thing, and the goal is to like try to adhere to what they think masculinity is and what it should be. In the reality,
Alan Chambers suit. Alan Chambers tribute.
Fabulous!
I can't define masculinity like our femininity. No, it's like kind of nebulous, but I know it's not that suit.
That's true.
But you know what they do is like, oh, we're here to help. No, help yourself, man. You needed to help yourself all these years, and you should have been in a private therapist office on a couch, maybe a team of shrinks. Like, I don't know if one will do. You might have needed the whole team. I don't know, but you should not have been on the public stage, airing your dirty laundry and hurting other people and dragging them in to what was clearly an internal struggle that you were dealing with. You know, that's the big, quote, sin. So basically, other than the crime that he's being accused of. But the other one was like, why are you on a stage? You're the last person that should be telling anybody anything. You can't even help yourself. You can't even wrestle with your own demons, yet you're accusing other people of being demonic. It's like, who the hell do you think you are? Like, why were you on that stage the whole time if you were dealing with these things? Screwing up lives. It infuriates me, the amount of damage people like that do. And it's not just Alan. It goes across the entire evangelical world that we're dealing with. It's just filled with predators that are presenting themselves as holier than thou. And as I just said, I don't know how people keep falling for this act.
That's the reason why that I don't want to.
Atrocious.
That's the reason why that I don't want to act like a Christian, because acting like a good person is all an act.
Yeah.
And I don't want to act. I just want to be myself.
Yeah, I mean, there were, I don't mean to impugn, Christians, because there are some good Christians that feed the hungry and clothe the homeless and do good things. I mean, there are real Christians that do follow beliefs, but there's a good percentage of them that are like Alan Chambers, and they're on the public stage to exercise private demons. And they should have taken care of themselves and helped thyself before harming other people. But that's what they chose to do. I don't know if it's narcissism. I don't know if it's a projection issue. But it's so common. And this story is such an archetype. It's just like, we all heard it before about the old Christian pastor, doing the fondling and doing all kinds of creepy things, or embezzling or whatever it might be. It's nothing new, but these churches have got to do a better job, I think, making sure they have the right people in these positions. That they don't have people like Alan putting youth programs together. And unfortunately, they don't look for credentials.
No.
They don't look for experts. They don't look for people who are upstanding citizens. They'll take these churches. Many of them will take anybody and everybody who says, "I found God." You could have someone who was a total scumbag yesterday, and they're like, "I found God," and then I go, "Oh, okay, fine, great, run my youth ministry." That's what it's like in these churches. That's what I found with my work opposing the right-wing groups and ex-gay ministries, is there are no standards whatsoever except saying, "Oh, I found God and I've changed." That's it. That's all. Whether it's being gay,
and then you get used.
They'll put a guy who was in the gutter yesterday, a junkie in a gutter, and they're like, "Oh, what?" And then the next day they walk in church and go, "I've been saved," and they go, "Okay, go run this program. Go tell youth about drugs." That's what too many of these churches do, and it's not okay.
Right.
I don't believe in quote sin and all. I don't think it's anything. Think bad things people do, but I don't believe in that concept. I think it's stupid. But if there were, but that is, if you're going to talk about sin, that is sin. Taking no personal responsibility in these churches of who you put in charge of others. Putting the people's lives in the hands of quacks and perverts and weirdos and hypocrites. But they do that every single day, and they never learn, even though on any given many times a day, you can Google, a pastor, whatever, doing, and you'll find pastors and youth ministers all over the world doing these things, and that they have taken very few steps in the fundamentalist church and these hardcore evangelical right-wing churches to fix it. And so it's just one scandal after another, and they just try to sweep it under the rug. And they need to stop and get their act together especially before they point fingers at anybody else. And you change your lifestyle. It's like, no, screw you. You change yours.
Yeah.
We haven't hurt anybody. You did. You're the one who screwed up lives, not us. So don't sit there and stop the preaching. And until you can practice what you preach, I don't want to hear you anymore. I think they should shut up and just get their act together before they continue this, these lies and the hypocrisy and this preachiness that they have, this self-righteous.
I'm better than you because I'm at this position making $100K a year off of blood money. Yeah, 100%. There's a commenter, DJ Jolie 931. Hi, Joel. I think all of these conservative mega churches need to be shut down. Let people live their lives. It's all BS. I don't think it's possible for churches specifically to be shut down, but it does make a case to say that if this is what's happening in the conversion therapy space and like in conversion therapy spaces, if this type of behavior is what's happening, we can certainly do something different. It definitely helps our case on why conversion therapy is harmful. And maybe we can present something stronger. But it can't just stop here.
Yeah, Matt, but first of all, you can't shut them down unless there's wrongdoing. You can't just say this religion, even if it's a screwed up religion or even a cult. I mean, people have a right to
First Amendment right.
Harmful things. Yeah, I mean, but they should, there's rights and responsibilities, and these churches have a responsibility to get their act together. And instead, they always run into PR mode. They get their public relations people out, and they claim it's an aberration, but no, it's not an aberration. You've created fertile territory for these types of horrible events to occur. And after, not just the evangelical church, I mean, look at the scandals in the Catholic Church we saw with molesting kids, these pedophile priests. And, for a long time, there was a big cover-up. They, instead of firing these people and calling the police, they just shuffled them around to other dioceses, and they would do the same behavior again and again and again. So the very people that are supposed to be safeguarding morality are often the most immoral, and in fact, they're in this church as a facade, so people think they're good people when they're really the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. And so, I tell you, I just don't want to hear any of them preach, and especially about you're gay. Like, yeah, and I mean, who the hell do you think you are?
Exactly, you don't get to live my life.
I don't want
that's another thing.
To preach to us, all of it.
That's another thing.
These churches have no moral authority.
I think these people do it, personally, I think these people do it because it's a kink. It's their giant chastity belt where I'm the leader and I get to tell you what to do. And I don't even know if they get off on that.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it's to stop themselves, and I think some of them, I think it's to stop their own inclinations, but or to control people. And third reason is to take their money, because all these groups. I mean, if you've noticed, all these Exodus groups and all. It's always about give me money. Even if the groups themselves were free, but you go into the groups, as you well know, having been through this, and it's always like, you need to buy this tape. And if you don't buy it, you're just not serious about change. You have to go to this conference across the country. Or, as in your case, you have to go to Journey in the Manhood and fork over a lot of money to go into a walk around in the woods with a bunch of gay people pretending they're not gay. So there's always a money factor involved with these. And I've never heard of a single, including Alan, I've never heard of a single ex-gay group or leader giving the money back after the people that they were supposed to change didn't change. They failed, and yet they keep the money for a failed fake product that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, okay, you want us? I think they should all get the money back.
I don't even think that he should have been
money.
able to be posting bail for $15,000. That's $15,000 of people that had purchased going to the Exodus conferences.
Yeah, I mean, it's also he's clearly a danger to society, so I don't think he should have been out of jail, to be honest.
I agree.
He should still be there. But, he's out, and but he's got the trial coming up. Unless he's got a hell of a good lawyer, it's going to be hard to refute these allegations. I mean, the only way he gets out of this is if there's a technicality. I bet he's probably going to claim entrapment, and then try to use a technicality to get him off. I think that's probably the direction the lawyers are going to go with this, because other than getting off on a technicality, he might as well just plead guilty and
he admitted it to police that what he was doing up to a point, but
up to a point. So
then he pleaded the fifth.
Yeah, and that's why. First of all, he's stupid. The way he did was very dumb. It's like everything he did was just dumb. Shockingly stupid, really. But on top of that, it's like, the case looks. There are only allegations of course. I want to be clear. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But from what we've seen so far, he's got a real uphill battle, and the likelihood of him getting away with the allegations are just not very good. But unless he can claim technicality on entrapment or something like that, he's better off just probably pleading guilty and just like begging the court to saying, "I've never been caught before," and you put a tag on me or house arrest or something, no computer or something like that. But that's his best case scenario if he's got a judge that if he's got someone that's more sympathetic. But yeah, the chances are he's gonna get a room at Rayford, up in Rayford prison.
Jeez.
Yeah.
He's accused of targeting or trying to target a child, a teenager, for sex. That has nothing to do with being gay. And I want people to realize we're not conflating the two here. This is like
It's still crazy seeing him in a jumpsuit. I wish it was orange, but
Yeah, me too. It's too stylish. The old prison stripes would all work.
the prison stripes too. Yeah. Well, the future tense.
Like the Monopoly character.
With the hat, with the little hat, instead of his Krispy Kreme hat.
They get out of jail free.
Get out of jail with Exodus International Ministries money. That's for sure.
That's right. Yeah, because like in this getup, he looks like he's at a nightclub.
Joel said, "Yeah, right." Joel said, "Guess he won't be." Joel said, "Guess he won't be selling his suits anymore." LOL. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, his book's on sale too. Clear out sale. Clearance. Yeah.
he's doing something predatory with somebody he thinks is a child, which is a crime.
That's right.
So I want to be clear about that. The Orange County Sheriff's Office wants people to contact them because they believe there could be other victims out there. In the affidavit, it says that there was an account used to contact male sex workers. And so it sounds like they think this account or these accounts that Alan Chambers may have been contacting other teenagers, other young people, and doing things with other young people. What are your thoughts on that as a former prosecutor?
Well, I had a unit in my office, the Special Victims Unit, and SVU, where it's rare that someone who does something like this will just stop at one. It's rarely their first time. It's just their first time getting caught. So I'm not surprised that there are potentially other victims out there and that this is not the first time that he tried this. So very normal, very typical. This is a guy who's fighting with himself and has apparently been doing this to others for some time.
Now let's flip the script and talk about the defense side of this. How do you defend this?
Well, I only recently became a defense lawyer. It's much easier to prosecute these cases. I'll tell you what they're going to try to do. The defense is going to try to focus on intent. I mentioned this earlier. He's going to say that this was just aspirational, just fantasy play. Right. That's really, of course, then why'd you take overt steps towards a meeting? He also had confessions after the traffic stop before he was read his Miranda rights. He made some critical admissions. So maybe as a defense lawyer, you try to get those thrown out, saying that he should have been Mirandized at that time, because those are really damning, where he confirmed that he owned those Snapchat and Telegram accounts. He confirmed his phone numbers. He knew he was communicating with a 14-year-old.
Joel says something in the chat. Peterson Toscano noted in a recent YouTube that 20 years ago he confronted Allen about parents forcing children to be without their consent. This seems fishy to me. Wayne actually wrote about it. We're gonna get that later on in this video. We're gonna read some blogs after this. We only have a couple of minutes in this video.
Those are just damning admissions. If you can get that thrown out, you have a chance in this case. So that's where I would go as a defense lawyer. But I think the best play here for him is to try to get a settlement, try to do a plea deal, and just throw yourself onto the mercy of the court.
Yeah, and he has a really good job too with a high-end clothing store. Kind of wondering what's going to happen with that. I mean, because it's a pretty fancy clothing store chain. I'm wondering if they're going to say bye-bye. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but that's the least of his problems. I mean, yeah, I think he'll get fired from his job.
I mean,
but
I think in this case it's clear that the emperor has no clothes. The emperor. I don't think that business is going to be good.
Oh my god! Only you.
It's true.
It is true.
The bigger problem is that he can become a resident of the state wearing an orange jumpsuit and a pair of steel bracelets for years to come.
True. That is the bigger issue here. David,
Well, he always liked jewelry.
Thank you, Internet.
He always liked jewelry?
Yeah, jewelry. He always liked the word jewelry. So
Yeah.
bracelets.
Cuffed up.
although he preferred gold than silver, but it's. I think what he said was true. That the likelihood of this being the first time is unlikely. It's like somebody on a diet and gets caught with their Oreo. It's probably not the first Oreo they snuck. It's just not likely. So.
Did he go to the island? Are you talking about Epstein Island? I think there's a correlation between the two. I can't prove it, but
Yeah, I don't know.
that's.
I don't know about that, but it's both are bad news.
So I'm bringing up your former articles that you wrote.
Yeah. Okay, let's stop right there. Look at the guy they put in charge of children to run this campus. Look at this fucking guy, Justin Luckadoo. You're gonna put your kid in his stead, in his care?
Hold on.
Really?
Yeah.
Like if I was a parent, I'm sending my kid to this guy to summer camp for this guy. This guy's gonna make you. This guy's gonna change you or gonna give you morality. I mean, God,
really? He looks like a member of NSYNC.
He looks like a cracked out carny.
Oh my gosh.
Justin Luckadoo.
Wow, talk about some rules.
I'm not accusing you of any wrongdoing. I'm just saying that I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I'm saying he just looks like he did something wrong. I just wouldn't send my kid there. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Truth Written Out expressed its concern over the launch of new summer camp that spreads the dangerous ex-gay message to children as young as 11 years old. The Ignite Student Outreach Youth Campus will kick off Monday in Bradenton, Florida. before
Yeah, right.
migrating to 3 additional southern states. Exodus International, an organization that teaches gay men to play football and repossesses their underwear if they're deemed too gay. Holy, I didn't even know they did that. Run the...
Yeah, they have like the fruit. Like if you wear Fruit of the Loom, they get. I'm sorry, if you wear like Speedo underwear, they take it from you and they make you wear Fruit of the Loom, something that they decided was less gay. So
that's crazy! I did not know that.
Yeah. Back in the day in Love and Action, they called them FI, false images, and so if you had the wrong underwear, it was a false image. But it was actually the opposite. The people who were wearing the Speedo, that was the real image, and the bogus underwear, the other underwear they put on was the false image. It was the opposite. They're teaching people not to be themselves. But, we talk about this here, these camp. They had a strategic plan to reach kids, and Alan Chambers was in the center of it. And they were, they had the summer camp, they had the app, they had the, Pure Passion television show.
Yes.
They had a thing called Exodus. They had Exodus Youth was actually a program. They had the Day of Truth, which was to mock the Day of Silence. So they had this. They started gravitating around this time, going explicitly trying to target young people. Alan Chambers in the center, trying to recruit them or groom them. Some may say, and they, as young as 11. It was very inappropriate and dystopian. And we called it out. We screamed as loud as we could. Please stop. This is just a recipe for, grooming and abusing kids. We did everything we could to get the message out there.
You found this as early as
anyway.
2006 too. You were, like you said.
That was the first year of Truth Wins Out, was 2006. So that was our first year.
So you knew this since you knew something was off since the very beginning.
Yeah, I did. I knew something was creepy and weird in their efforts to put kids in their program, and they just kept going back to the same thing, and kids, and it was just like these people. I didn't know if they were, pedophiles or not, but I did know they were unhealthy people, sick people with demons and issues and problems that were deep-seated that needed to be in serious psychiatric care, not giving advice or information to kids. And that's why we've seen so many scandals in ex-gay programs, because they put these young people in harm's way, and they are the harm. So, and they're still doing it today. There's still these ex-gay programs still want to reach out to young people, and they just need to stop, because they're sick people running those programs who are not well. They're repressed themselves. They're fighting inner demons within themselves, and they should not be dispensing advice or running summer camps with children. They're just not the right people for that. They need to work on themselves.
100%. Oh, wow. So this is in November 6, 2010. You reported that the ex-gay organization Exodus International plans to target middle school-aged children in 2011. In response, was revealed that... Go ahead.
Yeah, it's called the Celebrate Kids Conference. They're going to
Celebrate Kids Incorporated.
Was Alan just celebrating that 14-year-old kid was, the cop? So was, Celebrate Kids. I mean, come on. These groups are bizarre and weird and creepy, and they shouldn't be anywhere near kids.
Yeah.
Scandals that we've seen.
I'm afraid to click on that link.
I was terribly afraid of what they were going to do and what the results were going to be. And apparently my fears, unfortunately, came to be true. And they were, to quote Ani DeFranco, the singer, as bad as I am, I'm worse than I seem. It was part of her lyrics. As bad as they were, they're worse than they seemed. And now we're seeing the results of this.
Scary. There's a couple more articles. I will also leave these articles in the description box below. Please go and subscribe to Truth Wins Out. Subscribe to my channel as well. Give this a like. Let's boost it in the algorithm. I think this is important to know.
We called what Alan Chambers was going to do right here. It's 2010, and we said their 2011 game plan target middle school kids. I mean, we saw the potential for this nightmare that's unfolding today in Orlando. We saw it early. We begged these churches not to get involved with these guys. We and we told the world, and the world just didn't want to hear it. They decided that they could put their children in the hands of these creeps, and the results speak for themselves. And these churches, they're as guilty as Chambers is. They're the ones who ignored all the evidence and didn't have critical thinking and weren't skeptical about this and went ahead with these all these camps, and they supported, gave money to Exodus. They're as guilty as anybody else for doing this, if not more, because they funded it. They actually put the money behind it.
Let's read this. This is big. God's call to do nothing sat well with me, considering Exodus was already losing relevance. Unfortunately, I continued reading and was alarmed that Exodus' top goal in 2011 is to recruit school children as young as 11 years old, middle age. According to the online letter, the greatest area of our need in our culture is the outreach to young people. We'll be changing the name of Exodus Youth to Exodus Student Ministries, so basically hiding that they're counseling the youth, in order to encompass middle school through college-age students. We have listened to youth pastors, parents, and especially students, and we want to amplify our message in a way that they will best receive it, via web communication, YouTube, podcasts, and short-to-the-point booklets. We're also in the process of creating iPhone apps, which you later banned.
Yeah, well, Matt, we just saw Alan Chambers' version of outreach.
Yep.
We thought he was outreach, but it was a cop.
Yeah.
That's what outreach is for these ex-gay.
That's wild.
Not well. These are not well people. These are people who, the idea that they're having anything to do with kids is they should just not. They should have nothing to do with them. The evidence is overwhelming at this point. The ex-gay groups are, it's flypaper for weirdos and freaks and criminals and horrible people, and who have who are sick, and unfortunately the Supreme Court just gave them the imprimatur, the stamp of approval. Go ahead, it's talk. Yeah, well, this is what do they say during this talk? It's not healthy. It's not good.
Even though that we had a fair number of students at Chambers, we believe due to the timing of the event, Day of Truth was always perceived as an adversarial manner and became more about policy than people. Desert Stream.
Yeah, well, I guess he moved. I guess based on his behavior, he cared more about people. No more policy.
Care about minors. Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's such bull. It's just like skin crawling, but we tried, Matt. We tried. We a lot of the media deserves to be ashamed as well. Like
the criticism.
Why weren't they all covering all this? I mean, we got a lot of media, especially back then, but like they weren't skeptical enough. They didn't pressure them enough and say, "What are you doing trying to target 11-year-olds, man?" I mean, isn't that it's interesting and it's interesting because all these fundamentalist right-wing parents, they wouldn't be caught dead taking their kid to an R-rated movie, but they'll send her to a summer camp with that weirdo, with the weird hair, and Alan Chambers to talk about gay sex and all kinds of shit. That they won't let them curse at home and take them to an R-rated movie. Yet they'll put them in the charge of these creeps. I mean, come on, man. It's like all those people who did all of this and are behind it have partial responsibility for what's happening right now, because there were people warning them. There were people saying, watch out, and they turned a blind eye. They didn't want to see the truth. They didn't want to see reality. They didn't want to see the facts. They didn't want to see the history of these groups. They didn't want to know about the scandals. They buried their head in the sand, based on a right-wing ideology, and the results now speak for themselves. Everything we warned about has come to fruition. And I'm sorry that it did. I would love to have been wrong about this, but clearly We at Truth Wins Out were not wrong about this. We pegged them.
Yeah.
As early as our first year, 2006, like right away, we knew something was amiss.
Mm-hmm. I remember Yvette saying this in one of your videos.
I was the director of women's ministry for Exodus International. You know what I spent my time doing? Dealing with leaders in ex-gay ministries who were having sex with the people who were coming to them for help.
See, I mean, that they knew internally that they were screwed up. They knew internally that there was a scandal machine and that these people were bad news. The people that they put in charge of leadership, and yet they continued and they persisted. And here we are today.
Joel said, just...
I'm going to add, where the hell was Focus on the Family? They knew. They must have known. They knew.
Oh, it's just...
They were there. This Porno Pete LaBarbera knew. I mean, they all knew that something, wasn't kosher there. They knew something was wrong. And what did they do? They did nothing.
Scary. Joel said, just curious, is Bethel's change movement still on the rise? Yes. If so, are people confronting about it? I think there will be. There's I can't really announce. That church/cult has done so much damage. Yes, they have. They really have. They're one of the biggest right now.
Yeah, I think they are the biggest. And I wrote a piece on them. I wrote it was like last year. I wrote a pretty good piece. It was published in LGBTQ Nation. So if you look up Change Movement of Bethel and LGBTQ Nation, you can find it. But the good news about Bethel is they're going to be easy to defeat, and I'll tell you why. Because they're one of the most radical, extreme churches we've ever seen. They don't just believe they can cure people for being gay or transgender. They believe they can cure people who are paralyzed and make them walk. They actually go into downtown Redding, California, and they surround people in wheelchairs and try to rise them, make them rise in the name of the Lord. They also believe they can make, this is hard to believe, but they believe that if you have your arms or legs chopped off, they can pray and regrow limbs. So if you think you can make people, blind see and who are paralyzed walk and you can regrow limbs, curing homosexuality or being transgender is just really not that high on the cure scale compared to regrowing limbs. But it also opens them up to being defeated, particularly in the court of public opinion, because they are so out there and weird and and clearly they're not regrowing limbs or any of the other bullshit they say when they take people's money and with the collection plate in church, all the gullible people that are there. So, on one hand, the change movement's profoundly disturbing. They have very high-level materials, good graphics, they have very pretty things they sell. But on the other hand, they've given us a pretty good opening, particularly if we're in the media, to discredit them based on their things they say and do, which are just way, way out there. I mean, they make Focus on the Family look credible. I mean, that's how crazy they are. They're crazy. I mean, that's crazy stuff they do. Good luck to the change movement because, we're going to embarrass you.
Yeah.
Embarrass them because they're ridiculous church. Ridiculous, people running that church who live in a fantasy world where people regrow limbs. So.
Yeah.
We're ready for that fight. That's all I can say.
100%. Recently they had do you have a link for that, Joel? No, it's a lie. Recently they had a huge scandal that exposed lots of abuse, etc. Probably. For change.
For what?
For the change movement.
I don't.
I don't doubt it. We'll probably leave this stream at here for time's sake. Thank you so much for everybody that viewed this. Future viewers, please give us a like and subscribe. Make sure that you follow Truth Wins Out. Truth Wins Out, personally for me, saved me just because when I was doing my committee speech at the House of Commons, I was looking through some of the your old archival videos. And I saw who recently passed away, Arthur Goldberg, who was talking about that I can make you from gay to straight, and it really helped me. So thank you for the. Go ahead.
Arthur Abba Goldberg.
Arthur Abba Goldberg.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, for those who don't know, first of all, let me go to the backstory. This guy was Bernie Madoff before Bernie Madoff on Wall Street, and he ran a fund, and he tried to help poor cities with funding, and he ripped them all off, like East St. Louis and Guam. He caused a lot of damage, and he went to prison for committing, as the judge said, fraud of a spectacular fashion. And or scale, it was fraud of a spectacular scale. And when he got out of prison and he was disbarred from being a lawyer, Arthur Abba Goldberg didn't know what to do. So he dropped the Abba from his name. He just became Arthur Goldberg, so you couldn't find his prison photo. And because a lot of Arthur Goldbergs, only one Arthur Abba Goldberg. And he has nothing to do with the band, by the way, which is everyone loves. But so Arthur Abba Goldberg, he didn't know what to do. He just got out of jail for being a fraudster, lost his license. What do I do? And then his son came out, and he got this idea that he could profit from it by starting an ex-gay Jewish ministry called Jonah, Jews offering new alternatives to homosexuality. And he didn't even cure his own son, by the way, who didn't really speak out enough, quite frankly. But so he starts this ministry, and then it was shut down years later for consumer fraud after the life coaches that were, Alan Dowling was one of them, he was telling his clients, these life coaches, to get undressed and touch themselves in front of the mirror. So we have more scandal here, and so a jury shut down Jonah for consumer fraud, and but they harmed a lot of people, and just like Alan, they had Exodus, they had a lot of sexual scandal there as well.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to share my story. I'll be sharing a lot of stuff on Substack in the very near future on how I came to know about this. Thank you so much for being my guest today. There is no better person that I would have speaking about this subject right now, especially when you've known him and you've done interviews with these folks. Thank you for your continued work and your continued effort of exposing the truth on what this conversion therapy thing actually is. There's a lot more work to do. Like I said, everybody, please go and follow our channels. There's a bunch that we can do still. And let's take over the airwaves. Let's take over the space. We need to have more stories like this, like these, to be heard.
Yeah, and thank you for all your incredible work, Matt, for speaking out and with your survivor story, helping pass that law, being a key person to pass the law in Canada against conversion therapy, and for your diligence in speaking out against these fraudsters and con artists and hucksters in the ex-gay movement.
Thank you. Thank you. Until next time, guys.